What if the Egyptian underworld was not a place of judgment, but a place of physics? What if the Duat, the terrifying realm of night and transformation, was not a mythological landscape, but a literal map of consciousness? And what if Anubis, the jackal-headed god you've seen in museum paintings, was not a mortician for the dead, but a gatekeeper for the living, the guardian of a knowledge so profound it had to be disguised as a funeral rite, the knowledge of how to navigate the afterlife while still alive? You have been sold a story of weighing hearts and feathered scales, of a final test to determine if your soul was worthy of paradise. But that is the esoteric story, the one given to the masses to inspire moral behavior. The deeper, esoteric truth, the one taught in the secret chambers of the temples, was never about what happens after you die. It was about what happens when you awaken. Anubis does not hold a map to the land of the dead. He holds a map of your own mind. The underworld, the Duat, is not a place you go when your body fails. It is a place you can access now. It is the hidden, subconscious architecture of your own being, a multidimensional inner landscape of immense power, terrifying illusion, and secret pathways to higher states of existence. The 12 hours of the night that the sun god Ra was said to travel through the Duat are not a description of a solar cycle. They are a coded sequence, a step-by-step initiation manual for a living adept, detailing the stages of psychic and spiritual transformation one must pass through to achieve enlightenment. This was the ultimate secret of the Egyptian mystery schools. Death was not an event to be feared, but a process to be mastered. And Anubis, the opener of the ways, was not there to embalm your corpse. He was there to guide your consciousness through the passages that connect this waking world to the unseen realms within. The funerary texts, the pyramid texts, the coffin texts, the Book of the Dead, are not just scrolls to be buried with mummies. They are navigational charts. They are Anubis's map, left behind in fragmented pieces, detailing the beings, the challenges, and the passwords one would encounter in the deep, dark, and luminous corridors of the soul. They warn of gates guarded by serpents and fields of impossible beauty, of rivers of fire and halls of absolute truth. These were not poetic fantasies. They were literal descriptions of energetic strata, psychic barriers, and levels of awareness that exist within every human being, dormant and waiting. The system you live in has taught you to fear the underworld, to equate the subconscious with chaos and darkness. It has done this to keep you living on the surface of your own being, terrified of the infinite power that lies within. Because a person who has navigated their own inner darkness can no longer be controlled by external threats. Anubis was not the god of death. He was the god of lucid dying, the master of the conscious journey through the great below. And his map does not show you how to find peace in the afterlife. It shows you how to find your own divinity in the here and now. The map held by Anubis is not drawn on papyrus. It is woven into the very fabric of your energetic anatomy. The Duat is not a subterranean hell. It is the inner cosmos, and its geography is a direct reflection of the levels of your own consciousness. The ancient Egyptian initiates, the high priests of the mystery schools, were not theologians. They were psychic cartographers. They had meticulously explored these inner realms and created a symbolic language to describe a territory that exists beyond words. This is the true science of the soul, a science that has been deliberately misinterpreted as primitive religion. When the texts speak of the Duat being a realm of thick darkness, they are describing the initial descent into the subconscious mind, the place where the waking ego, with its constant need for light and control, loses all power. This is the first gate, and Anubis is the one who meets you there. The jackal, or the wild dog, was not chosen as his symbol by accident. The jackal is a creature of the dusk and dawn, a scavenger that walks between the world of the living and the world of the dead. It is a master of the liminal spaces, the thresholds. Anubis represents the faculty of your own consciousness that can see in the dark, the primal, instinctual intelligence that can navigate by scent and intuition when the light of the logical mind has failed. To begin the journey, you must first trust this jackal nature within you. The map details 12 divisions, the 12 hours of the night, each one a distinct level of the Duat, with its own energetic signature, its own guardian beings, and its own specific lesson. These are not linear stages, but concentric circles of awareness, moving deeper and deeper toward the core of the self. The first few hours are realms of illusion and memory. Here, the soul is confronted with the ghosts of its own past, unresolved traumas, suppressed emotions, the fragmented pieces of its own identity. The texts describe these as chaotic, dangerous beings, serpents and demons that threaten to devour the soul. These are not external entities. They are your own unintegrated shadow aspects, the psychic debris of your life that you must face, acknowledge, and integrate in order to pass. Anubis, in this stage, acts as a psychopomp, a guide for the soul, not by fighting these demons for you, but by reminding you that they are a part of you. His presence teaches you that the only way to overcome the monster is to recognize it as your own creation. As the journey deepens, the soul passes through gates, each guarded by a specific entity that demands a password. This is the most misunderstood part of the map. The passwords are not magical incantations. They are vibrational keys. Each gate represents a psychic barrier, a limiting belief system that walls off a deeper part of your consciousness. The guardian is the energetic signature of that barrier, and the password is the precise state of awareness, the specific insight that dissolves the limitation. For example, a gate guarded by a serpent with a knife might represent the fear of being hurt. The password is not a word, but the embodied state of vulnerability and self-trust, a frequency that proves to the guardian that you have learned the lesson of that realm and are ready to proceed. Anubis holds the knowledge of all these passwords. He is the keeper of the keys, the one who understands the precise frequency needed to unlock every sealed door within the human psyche. Deeper still, the map reveals more luminous, ordered realms. The fields of Aru, the Egyptian version of paradise, are described as a blissful agricultural landscape where the soul lives in peace. This is not a final destination. It is a level of consciousness, a state of profound inner harmony and creative potential that can be accessed once the major shadow work is complete. It is the lucid dream state, where the awakened soul realizes it can now consciously cultivate the landscape of its own reality. But even this is not the end. The ultimate goal of the journey through the Duat is not to find paradise, but to achieve what the Egyptians called Ak, the state of being a transfigured, effective spirit of light. This is the final hour, the deepest chamber of the underworld, where the soul confronts the very source of its own existence. This is the hall of Ma'at, where the famous weighing of the heart takes place. But the scales are not a tool of judgment. They are an instrument of physics. The feather of Ma'at represents the pure, coherent frequency of cosmic truth. The heart represents the total energetic signature of your life. The question is not, were you a good person? The question is, are you in tune? Is your heart your core frequency, as light, as coherent, as resonant as truth itself? If it is, the final gate opens. If it is not, the heart is devoured by the beast. Amit, not as a punishment, but as a cosmic recycling. The incoherent energy is dissolved, and the soul is sent back to the beginning of the cycle to learn again. Anubis is the overseer of this process, the master technician who reads the final measurement, who confirms whether the great work of alchemy has been successful. His map is the ultimate guide to self-realization, a step-by-step manual for the conscious deconstruction and reconstruction of the self, a journey not into death, but through it, into the immortal light of your own awakened divinity. The priesthoods of ancient Egypt were not a monolith. Just as in any great tradition, there were factions, schisms, and competing ideologies. The primary conflict, as we have explored, was between the solar doctrine of Ra and the stellar wisdom of the Syrian covenant, symbolized by figures like Osiris, Isis, and Thoth. But where did Anubis fit? He was neither solar nor stellar. He was something else, something older. Anubis represents a primordial, chthonic wisdom, the knowledge of the earth itself, the deep, dark intelligence of the material plane. He is the master of form, of biology, of the cycles of decay and rebirth. His wisdom was not received from the sky. It was discovered in the deep. This made him an indispensable, but also a deeply dangerous figure to both factions. The Syrians, in their mission to accelerate human evolution, needed Anubis. They were beings of light and frequency, masters of the energetic blueprint. But to manifest that blueprint in physical reality, to anchor it in biology, they needed an intermediary who understood the laws of matter. Anubis was that bridge. He was the master of embalming, not just of corpses, but of consciousness. He knew how to prepare a living human vessel through ritual and alchemical practice to receive and hold the high-frequency Syrian consciousness without burning out. The detailed, obsessive processes of mummification were not just for preserving the dead. They were a physical, exoteric practice that mirrored the esoteric process of preparing the energy body of a living initiate. Anubis taught the Syrians how to mummify a living adept's aura, strengthening and sealing their energetic field so they could safely channel the stellar data streams. He was the master technician who grounded their cosmic science in the earth. His map of the Duat was essential to them, as it showed their initiates how to navigate the human subconscious, the very territory they had come here to seed with new information. The Ra faction, on the other hand, had a far more ambivalent relationship with Anubis. They needed him for the same reason the Syrians did, to manage the transition of souls and to understand the mechanics of the afterlife. But they feared him deeply. Ra's ideology was one of solar absolutism, of pure, overwhelming light. Anubis represented the darkness, the mystery, the unknown that lay beyond Ra's dominion. Ra ruled the day, Anubis ruled the liminal spaces, the twilight hours that Ra could not fully control. The Duat, Anubis's primary domain, was the one place the solar bark of Ra was vulnerable, the one place he could be swallowed by the serpent of chaos. Anubis, as the master of this realm, was therefore seen as both a necessary guide and a potential threat. The Ra priests could not erase him. His function was too fundamental to the process of life and death. So they sought to control him, to subjugate his wisdom within their solar hierarchy. In the official state religion, Anubis was demoted. He went from being a powerful, independent, primordial god to being a mere servant in the Osirian mythos, and eventually, just another son of Ra, absorbed and neutered by the solar cult. But esoterically, Anubis never lost his power. He remained the opener of the ways, the only one who held the complete, uncensored map of the underworld. The other gods knew only their own realms, their own small sections of the inner cosmos. Anubis knew all the secret passages, the hidden tunnels that connected one level of consciousness to another. He knew how to bypass the terrifying guardians. He knew the energetic back doors of the mind. This made him the ultimate spy master of the gods, the keeper of all their secrets, because he knew the psychological terrain from which they were all born. This is why he is almost always depicted as a neutral, observant figure. He does not take sides in the cosmic drama. He is not interested in the politics of the heavens. His loyalty is to the process, to the journey of the soul itself. He serves the soul, not the gods that the soul creates or worships. He is a force of pure, objective spiritual physics. This neutrality is what made him so dangerous. A god you cannot control is a god you cannot trust. The map Anubis holds is a threat to any system of control because it is a map to sovereignty. It shows that any soul, regardless of its allegiance, can access any state of consciousness if it knows the way. It reveals that the heavens and hells are not final destinations, but temporary states that can be navigated and transcended. It is a map that proves there are ways to reach divinity that bypass the established religions, that bypass the authority of the priests, that bypass even the tyrannical dominion of a sun god like Ra. It is a map to freedom, and that is why the full, uncensored version of it had to be suppressed. The fragments you find in the Book of the Dead are just the public, redacted portions. The true map, the one with all the secret passages, was never written down. It was passed from master to initiate as a living transmission, a state of consciousness. And it is a map that Anubis still holds, waiting for those who are brave enough to ask for it, those who are willing to turn away from the blinding light of the sky and venture into the rich, terrifying, and ultimately liberating darkness within. The modern world has no room for a figure like Anubis. He has been neutered, turned into a Halloween costume, a comic book character, a museum artifact. The system you live in is a solar cult on a planetary scale. It is a world that worships the light of the external, the visible, the measurable. It is terrified of the dark. The subconscious is a problem to be medicated. The shadow is a flaw to be suppressed. Death is a failure to be sanitized and hidden away. The entire culture is an elaborate defense mechanism against the very realm that Anubis commands. This is not an accident. It is the legacy of the Ra program, the final victory of the solar tyranny. By convincing you to fear the underworld, they have convinced you to fear yourselves. By cutting you off from your own inner darkness, they have cut you off from your own deepest power. Anubis's map is the antithesis of the modern path to success. The system tells you to climb, to achieve, to be seen, to build your identity in the bright public light of social validation. Anubis teaches that true power is found in the descent, in the unseen, in the quiet, solitary work of integrating your own shadow. The system sells you 1,000 distractions to keep you from the discomfort of your own mind. Anubis knows that the treasures you seek are hidden inside that very discomfort. The journey through the Duat is the ultimate act of rebellion against a culture that is addicted to superficiality. It is the choice to turn off the screens, to silence the noise, and to voluntarily walk into the parts of yourself that you have been taught to hate. It is the understanding that your fears, your traumas, and your demons are not your enemies. They are the guardians of the gates, the keepers of the locked rooms that hold your greatest strengths. You cannot bypass them. You cannot fight them. You must face them, speak their name, the password, and integrate their wisdom. This is the psychological and spiritual crisis of our time. We are a civilization of people living on the first floor of a mansion, terrified to go down into the basement because we have been told it is haunted. But the basement holds the foundation, the furnace, the pipes, the very systems that control the entire house. By refusing to go down, we have ceded control of our own being. We have become puppets of subconscious programs we refuse to acknowledge. Our addictions, our compulsions, our irrational fears, our self-sabotaging patterns, these are the demons of the Duat running rampant because the master of the house refuses to go downstairs and restore order. Anubis is the part of you that is not afraid to go down. He is the quiet, courageous, and clear-eyed witness within you that knows the darkness is not an enemy. It is simply a place where the light has not yet been consciously directed. When you begin this inner journey, when you start to apply the principles of Anubis's map to your own life, the world will see you as strange. You will choose silence when others choose noise. You will choose introspection when others choose distraction. You will begin to value your inner state more than your outer achievements. You may lose friends. You may outgrow relationships. The systems that once gave you comfort may suddenly feel like cages. This is a sign that the journey is working. You are unbecoming everything that isn't you. You are shedding the skins of your conditioned self. It is a lonely and often painful process, but it is the only path to true sovereignty. The map Anubis holds promises that on the other side of this deep inner work is not a void, but a profound integration, a wholeness that cannot be shaken by the external world. You stop seeking validation from others because you have found it within yourself. You stop fearing death because you have consciously navigated the process of ego death many times. You stop seeing the world in a simplistic binary of good and evil and begin to see the complex, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying interplay of light and shadow in all things, especially within yourself. The system cannot control a person who has made peace with their own darkness. That person is immune to shame, impervious to fear-mongering, and impossible to manipulate. They have walked through their own hell and realized they were the ones holding the torch the entire time. Anubis is not a god to be worshipped. He is a faculty of consciousness to be embodied. He is the courage to look within, the wisdom to navigate what you find, and the ultimate realization that the only way out is through. The map is not a secret hidden in an Egyptian tomb. It is imprinted on your soul. The only question is whether you will finally find the courage to read it. The passages on the map are not just symbolic stages of psychological integration. They are real, energetic pathways within your subtle body. The Duat is not just a metaphor for the subconscious. It is a literal description of the human energy field, a territory as real and complex as your physical anatomy. The ancient Egyptian initiates, under the guidance of Anubis, were not just meditating. They were actively and consciously shifting their point of awareness through the different strata of their own aura, their ka. This is the lost science of interdimensional travel without leaving your body, a form of advanced astral projection and consciousness navigation that makes modern spiritual practices look like child's play. The map reveals that the human energy field is a series of concentric spheres, or halls, each vibrating at a different frequency and containing a different level of information. The outermost layers are the most chaotic, filled with the psychic noise of our daily lives, our fleeting emotions, and our collective cultural programming. This is the entrance to the Duat. To pass through this static, The initiate had to achieve a state of profound mental silence, a feat that required years of discipline. This is the first gate, guarded by demons, which are, in reality, the initiate's own distracting thought forms. Once past this outer veil, the map shows passages that correspond directly to the chakra system, a science that the Egyptians understood in their own terms. The river that the soul must cross is a depiction of the central column of energy, the Sushumna Nadi, that runs along the spine. The serpent guardians at each of the subsequent gates are the dormant Kundalini energy coiled at the base of each chakra, which must be awakened and pacified for the soul to pass. The passwords required at each gate are the specific mantras, or hekau, and resonant tones that would cause a particular chakra to open, allowing the consciousness to flow through to the next level. Anubis was the master of these vibrational keys. He taught the initiates how to use their own voice to generate the precise frequencies that would unlock their own energy centers. This was not about belief. It was about applied sonic technology. The initiate was literally singing their way through the locked doors of their own subtle body. The text described dangerous passages filled with fire or lakes of boiling water. These are not hellscapes. They are descriptions of what it feels like to move consciousness through an area of the energy body where there is a significant blockage, a deep-seated trauma, or a powerful emotional charge. Navigating these areas required the initiate to remain in a state of absolute equanimity, the coolness that the texts constantly praise. If the initiate reacted with fear, their own emotional energy would feed the blockage, trapping them in a loop of psychic pain. Anubis's role was to teach them how to become a detached observer, to pass through the fire without being burned. The most secret passages on the map were the ones that allowed for non-linear travel. Anubis knew that the Duat was not just a vertical hierarchy of levels, but a web of interconnected timelines and realities. He knew of hidden tunnels, what modern physics might call wormholes or Einstein-Rosen bridges, within the human energy field. By accessing these passages, an adept could navigate not just through the layers of their own consciousness, but through time and probability. They could access past life memories not as vague dreams, but as vivid, direct experiences. They could perceive probable futures and subtly alter their present actions to shift toward a more favorable timeline. This was the highest and most dangerous form of magic, the ultimate opening of the ways. It was the ability to consciously edit one's own soul script. This is why the knowledge was so heavily guarded. In the hands of an unbalanced or ego-driven individual, this power could create catastrophic psychic damage, not just for themselves, but for the collective reality. Anubis, as the ultimate gatekeeper, was the one who could perceive if an initiate was pure enough, balanced enough, to be taught these final secrets. His scales were not just a metaphor for moral judgment. They were a literal perception of a soul's energetic coherence and stability. He could see if your heart, your core vibratory field, was truly as light as a feather, meaning it was free from the heavy, dissonant baggage of the ego. Today, fragments of this science survive in various esoteric traditions: astral projection, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, timeline jumping, but they are often incomplete, missing the crucial element that Anubis provided: the complete, holistic map. Modern seekers are often like explorers trying to navigate a vast and dangerous continent with only a few torn pages of a road atlas. They may have some success, but they also risk getting lost in the chaotic and illusory realms of the lower astral plane, the entrance to the Duat without a guide to Lead them through to the deeper, more ordered, and more luminous territories within. Anubis's map is the missing piece. It is the complete system for the safe, conscious, and systematic exploration of the final frontier, inner space. And it teaches the ultimate truth. You are not a body that contains a soul. You are a soul that contains a universe, and you have always had the map to explore it. The final secret of Anubis's map is not a place or a passage. It is a realization. It is the understanding of what the Duat truly is and why the journey through it is the ultimate purpose of human existence. The underworld is not a static realm. It is a creative matrix. It is the womb of reality, the pre-manifest space where thought becomes form, where consciousness crystallizes into experience. To navigate the Duat is not just to explore what is already there. It is to gain the power to consciously participate in the creation of what is to come. This is the knowledge that separated the inner circle of the Egyptian priesthood from all other spiritual traditions of their time. They were not just seekers of enlightenment, they were architects of reality. The map reveals that in the deepest levels of the Duat, beyond the halls of judgment and the fields of paradise, exists a realm the texts call the Lake of Fire. This is not a place of punishment, it is a place of alchemy. It is a field of pure, primordial, unmanifest potential, the raw energy of creation itself. The fire is its immense power. Here, the adept who has successfully passed through all the previous stages, whose heart is in perfect coherence with Ma'at, is granted the ultimate, the power to create from the source. The texts describe the soul bathing in this lake, not to be destroyed, but to be reborn, to be re-tempered, to emerge as an Akh, a transfigured spirit of light. An Akh is a being who has so perfectly integrated their own consciousness that they can now impress their will directly onto the creative matrix of the Duat. They no longer need to act in the physical world to create change. They can create change at the causal level, in the underworld of the mind, and the physical world will then rearrange itself to match the new blueprint. This is the true power that Anubis guards. He is the gatekeeper to the creative engine of the universe, which exists inside of you. He ensures that only those who have achieved a state of complete selflessness and alignment can access this final chamber. The weighing of the heart is the final security check. If there is even a trace of ego, of desire for personal gain, of a will that is not in harmony with the greater cosmic will, the soul cannot enter the lake of fire. The beast, Ammit, the devourer of hearts, is the cosmic failsafe that prevents the power of creation from being misused. Ammit is the embodiment of the law that says, if your will is not pure, your creations will consume you. This is why the Ra faction ultimately sought to control and suppress the wisdom of Anubis. Ra's program was about solar dominion, about impressing a single, monolithic will onto reality. Anubis's map leads to a different kind of power, the power of the co-creator, the being who aligns their individual will so perfectly with the divine will that they become one and the same. This is a state of being that transcends the master-slash-slave dynamic of the solar cult. An awakened Akh does not worship Ra. It is a sun in its own right. It does not follow the law. It becomes the law. This was a truth too dangerous for any system of control to tolerate. This level of sovereignty makes all external authority obsolete. The passages on the map are therefore not just a journey inward. They are a journey into the very engine room of your reality. Each gate you unlock in your own psyche gives you a greater degree of influence over the world you experience. As you clear your emotional blockages, you notice that your relationships and environment become more harmonious. As you dissolve your limiting beliefs, you find that new opportunities and synchronicities appear as if from nowhere. This is not a coincidence. You are literally rewriting your reality from the inside out. You are learning to work as a conscious architect in the underworld of your own mind, and the waking world is the construction site where your new blueprints are being made manifest. Anubis is the master teacher of this divine art. He is the one who shows you how to take the lead of your psychological pain and transmute it into the gold of conscious creation. He guides you through the darkness of your own subconscious, not so you can escape it, but so you can learn to harness its immense creative power. The underworld is not a place to be feared. It is your studio. It is your laboratory. It is your temple. And the journey through it is the only one that truly matters. When you have completed the map, when you have bathed in the lake of fire and emerged as an Ach, you understand the final secret. You do not die and go to the underworld. You are in the underworld right now. This physical reality is a crystallized dream, a slow-moving thought form taking place in the vast, dark, and fertile womb of the Duat. And the only difference between a sleeping soul and an awakened one is that the awakened soul knows it is dreaming and has learned how to change the dream. Anubis does not guard the path to death. He guards the path to lucidity.